In the quaint town of Willow Creek, nestled deep in the Pacific Northwest, the serenity of its tree-lined streets belied the dark secrets that lay hidden beneath the surface. Sarah Collins, a vibrant 38-year-old single mother, had recently married Michael Thompson, a widower with a troubled past. Together, they formed a patchwork family, depending on Sarah's nurturing spirit to integrate Michael's teenage daughter, Lily, into their lives. At first, it seemed they might become a cohesive unit, but the forces of desire and betrayal fractured the illusion of harmony. Sarah initially welcomed Lily, a 17-year-old with rebellious tendencies, into her home. However, what began as simple attempts to bond between stepmother and stepdaughter spiraled into a dangerous affair that blurred the lines of familial loyalty. In whispered moments behind closed doors, their emotional connection intensified, eventually evolving into a passionate relationship kept hidden from the world. As their bond deepened, the rift within the family widened, igniting jealousy and resentment. Michael, oblivious to the budding romance between his wife and daughter, was consumed with his own grief. The specter of his late wife loomed large, complicating his ability to provide for Lily and connect with her emotionally. He sought solace in his work as a mechanic, often leaving Sarah and Lily alone together. Unbeknownst to him, those intimate moments became treacherous, leading to a web of lies that would inevitably entangle them all. By the summer of 2024, tensions ran high in the Thompson household. The atmosphere was thick with secrets as Lily's once vibrant personality darkened under the weight of her unspoken feelings. Rumors spread in town, fueled by whispers from friends of both Sarah and Lily, hinting at a passionate affair no one dared to confirm. As the summer days grew hotter, so too did the air of deception. On the night of July 17th, the tranquility of Willow Creek shattered when tragedy struck. Sarah Collins was discovered lifeless in her garage, surrounded by the tools of an ordinary life gone awry. The police would soon uncover the shocking truth hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect family, a tale of betrayal, love, and death that would leave the community in shock. Little did the townspeople know, this was just the beginning. The murders had revealed not only the complex interplay of emotions and motivations within the Thompson household, but also a glimpse into the darkest corners of human nature. As the investigation unfolded, it would expose the lengths one could go to protect their secrets and the tragic consequences of love gone horribly wrong. The warm summer night of July 17, 2024, took a harrowing turn in Willow Creek. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sounds of crickets filled the air, creating an eerie backdrop for a household steeped in turmoil. Inside the Collins-Thompson home, a dark argument unfolded in the garage. Sarah Collins, caught between her devotion to family and her forbidden love for her stepdaughter Lily, faced a choice that would end in bloodshed. After a heated confrontation, Sarah and Lily found themselves in a spiraling conflict over their increasingly complicated relationship. Lily, tortured by jealousy and anger, felt betrayed by her beloved stepmother, who she believed had usurped her father's affection and left her isolated. In the heat of the moment, words turned to actions. Witnesses would later recount hearing raised voices coming from the garage, but no one could have predicted the events that followed. As the argument escalated, Lily, feeling trapped and desperate, confronted Sarah about her feelings and their clandestine affair. A tumult of emotions flared: love, rage, and betrayal. In a moment of blind fury, Lily reached for a nearby toolbox and grabbed a heavy wrench. The single blow that struck Sarah's head echoed through the night, a sickening crunch that silenced their heated exchange. Time slowed as Sarah crumpled to the ground, blood pooling beneath her, the very essence of her life seeping away. Lily, slowly coming back to reality, was paralyzed by shock and horror at what she had just done. In that moment, the bond they had forged transformed into an irreparable fracture defined by a single, horrific act. What should have been a thriving relationship was now marked by grief and loss. Lily, terrified of the consequences, quickly fled the scene, shrouding the truth in her desperation. Hours later, Michael Thompson returned home, weary from work but looking forward to the warmth of his family's embrace. Instead, he was met with a chilling sight that would haunt him forever. As he stepped into the garage, the body of his lifeless wife lay lifeless before him, the wrench lying ominously nearby. He collapsed to his knees, a cocktail of disbelief and horror washing over him. The tranquility of Willow Creek had been shattered. In the days that followed, townsfolk would learn the unimaginable details that led to Sarah's grisly murder, a crime that would expose the deepest fissures within a family stretched to its breaking point. The murder of Sarah Collins rippled through the small community of Willow Creek like a stone cast into a still pond, sending waves of shock and disbelief. Within hours of the gruesome discovery, Detective Laura Hastings arrived at the Collins-Thompson home to lead the investigation. Having spent a decade in the police force, she was known for her keen insight and unwavering determination to uncover the truth. As the investigation began, the scene of the crime was meticulously examined. Sarah's body lay in the garage, the makeshift pool of blood a stark contrast to the ordinary tools surrounding her. Detective Hastings instructed her team to collect every piece of evidence possible, starting with the murder weapon, a heavy wrench that seemed out of place among the usual household tools. Initial interviews with Michael Thompson brought forth a portrait of a devastated husband grappling with sudden loss. He described Sarah as a caring mother and loyal partner who had dedicated herself to building a family. However, there was a shadow of confusion in his eyes, a lingering question of how something so horrific could occur within the sanctity of his home. Next, Detective Hastings turned her attention to Lily. The teenager, visibly shaken, claimed she had been at a friend's house during the time of the murder. However, her alibi quickly came into question. Disturbingly, no one had seen her leave the house that evening, and friends later contradicted her statement, saying Lily had mentioned she'd be home. As evidence began to mount, Hastings discovered a series of text messages between Sarah and Lily that exhibited their secret relationship. The messages oscillated between affectionate declarations and brief moments of tension, suggesting a complex emotional bond fraught with turmoil. In light of this new evidence, Hastings couldn't ignore the chilling possibility that passion had turned to crime. Neighboring families were questioned, revealing an increasing sense of unease regarding the Thompsons' household dynamics. Several reported hearing loud arguments in the days leading up to the murder, painting a picture of escalating tension and conflict. Rumors swirled around town, feeding into the already growing intrigue. With each piece of evidence pieced together, Detective Hastings felt closer to uncovering the truth. The once idyllic family portrait, now shattered by the tragic death of Sarah Collins, revealed dark undercurrents lurking just out of sight. As the investigation continued, suspicion coalesced around two potential suspects, Michael Thompson and his daughter, Lily. Any edge could tip the scales of justice, and Hastings knew she had to act quickly before the trail grew cold. As the investigation deepened, all eyes turned toward the first suspect, Michael Thompson, the bereaved husband and father. Detective Hastings' first task was to conduct a thorough interview with Michael to understand his movements on the night of the murder. His demeanor was a mixture of grief and confusion. He couldn't comprehend how his life had disintegrated overnight. Detective Hastings began with basic questions, steering the conversation toward the events of July 17th. "Where were you when you received the call about Sarah?" she asked, observing his body language closely. Michael described a typical workday filled with missed calls and texts from Sarah, which he had neglected to check due to the nature of his job as a mechanic. Despite his apparent sorrow, Hastings noticed subtle signs of stress in his responses, slight hesitations, a quiver in his voice when mentioning Sarah's name. While he spoke of his love for her, he also mentioned feeling the growing distance, particularly as it became apparent that both Sarah and Lily were withdrawing from him. As questioning progressed, details began to surface, small yet significant inconsistencies. He claimed he left work around 6 p.m. and arrived home shortly before 8 p.m. However, when asked about his exact whereabouts during the intervening time, he wavered, unable to account for a full hour. Further digging revealed that Michael had been struggling with personal issues. Friends recounted his growing irritability and frustration over his perceived inability to connect with his daughter, compounded by grief over his late wife. A potential motive was woven into the fabric of his narrative, suggesting that jealousy over the bond between Sarah and Lily might have fueled an alternate anger. Additionally, the neighbors' observations couldn't be overlooked. A few had reported seeing Michael's truck parked outside his home much later than he had acknowledged. This led Hastings to consider that perhaps he was present during the critical moments of Sarah's murder. Confronted with the evidence collected and the growing suspicion surrounding him, Michael's alibi seemed to dwindle, and the detective couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to his story. With both love and resentment entwined in the emotions of this shattered family, Michael emerged as a prime suspect in the truth behind Sarah's tragic death. As the investigation deepened, the focus increasingly shifted toward Lily Thompson, the 17-year-old who had harbored a secret love for her stepmother, Sarah Collins. While initially willing to play the part of a devastated daughter, the detective sensed an undercurrent of complexity in Lily's demeanor that raised questions about her innocence. Detective Hastings felt compelled to confront Lily with the evidence the police had gathered, especially the text messages exchanged between her and Sarah. Initially, Lily maintained her aloofness, insisting she was just an anguished daughter who had been devastated by her mother's sudden death. "She was everything to me. How could I hurt her?" she asked defiantly, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. However, when Hastings shared some of the more intimate exchanges between the two women, Lily's composure faltered. Lines such as "I can't live without you" and "We'll confront Dad together" sent shivers down her spine. The emotional tension resonated with deep-seated love and conflict, leaving Lily visibly shaken. "Lily, these messages indicate a relationship beyond that of a stepmother and daughter. Can you explain?" Hastings pressed, intent on getting to the heart of the matter. Lily's initial bravado crumbled as the reality of the situation sank in. The detective noted how her voice dropped to a whisper, revealing the fragility beneath the surface. "I loved her. I thought she loved me," Lily finally admitted, tears streaming down her face. However, her confession only deepened Hastings's concerns. "But love doesn't explain the murder," the detective pointedly replied. "Did Sarah want to end things between you two? Was she going to tell your father?" As the conversation veered toward those critical moments on the night of the murder, Lily's story began to shift. She recounted having arguments with Sarah, claiming that her stepmother wanted to end their relationship, looking to pull away from the secret they had shared. In a terrifying moment of realization, Lily admitted the tension had mounted as she felt Sarah pulling away, which left her feeling abandoned and enraged. Hastings pressed further, eliciting a few chilling words from Lily that set alarm bells ringing in her mind. "I couldn't let her leave me. I wouldn't let her," she said, her voice trembling not with fear, but with an emotion that resembled a fierce need to protect herself. Combined with her wavering alibi, allegations that she had been at a friend's house, later discredited, Lily's mixed emotions painted a troubling portrait. In the wake of her admission, the detective knew she had uncovered a potential motive: jealousy, rage, and the fear of losing the only person she believed truly understood her. The final straw came when forensic evidence revealed that Lily's fingerprints were discovered on the murder weapon. Detective Hastings now had two compelling suspects: the grieving husband, so deeply entrenched in grief and confusion, and the volatile stepdaughter who had been struggling with a love deemed taboo. The investigation had uncovered a labyrinth of human emotion, each layer peeling back to reveal darker motives. As Hastings pieced together every fragment of evidence against the backdrop of family betrayal, she was determined to find out who truly had killed Sarah Collins. As the investigation continued, a new suspect emerged from the shadows: Anna Green, Sarah's close friend and confidant. Initially, Anna had been cooperative with Detective Hastings, expressing her sorrow at Sarah's tragic death. However, upon closer inspection, the detective noticed subtle inconsistencies in Anna's recollections of recent events. It was an unspoken truth in Willow Creek: Anna had often been seen as a confidant to Sarah, often providing emotional support and guidance in Sarah's turbulent marriage. Yet, Hastings pondered whether Anna might also have hidden feelings of jealousy and betrayal regarding Sarah's rapid integration into the Thompson family unit. "Tell me more about Sarah's relationship with Michael and Lily," Hastings prompted, keen on gauging Anna's response. The friend remarked how happy Sarah had seemed lately, perhaps a little too happy, claiming that she had often worried about whether Sarah's newfound family dynamics were genuine or a facade. This statement raised a red flag for Hastings. Was Anna envious of Sarah's apparent happiness, and did she have a motive for wanting her out of the picture? As the investigation progressed, Anna's odd behavior further piqued Hastings's curiosity. Witnesses reported that they had seen Anna near the Thompson home on the day of the murder, seemingly arriving shortly before Michael found Sarah's body. When confronted with this information, Anna's countenance shifted. She instantly grew defensive, claiming she was only there to check on Sarah, not knowing anything was amiss. Yet, Hastings discovered an alarming detail: Anna had been indulging in excessive alcohol consumption leading up to the murder. This contributed to the possibility that Anna could have acted out of impulse rather than premeditated intent. Friends recounted seeing her drink heavily in the days before, raising questions about what secrets she might have been trying to drown. Forensics revealed that Anna's fingerprints, along with those of Lily and Michael, were present on the murder weapon, suggesting she had been in close proximity to Sarah at the time of her death. With her established connections to both Sarah and the Thompsons, Anna had the opportunity to manipulate the story to better her narrative while simultaneously clouding the truth. Detective Hastings began to see a more convoluted web of intrigue. While Anna professed her loyalty as a friend, her inconsistencies and possible motives suggested otherwise. The layers of betrayal expanded, creating a tangled journey riddled with emotional stakes. Now, as the investigation honed in on three primary suspects, Hastings understood that every family, even one shrouded in love, could also harbor darkness. Each suspect carried with them motives forged in love, jealousy, and deep-rooted resentment. As the detective navigated this labyrinth of emotions, she steeled herself for the confrontation of truths that lay ahead. As Detective Hastings continued to unravel the complex threads of the Collins-Thompson case, new evidence emerged, thrusting the investigation into an unexpected direction. It began with a routine check of security camera footage from the vicinity of the Thompson home. A review of the recordings revealed the shocking presence of a fourth individual on the night of the murder, Brody Sloan, a volatile ex-boyfriend of Lily, who had recently returned to Willow Creek after a long absence. Brody's reputation in town was notorious. Known for his impulsive and aggressive behavior, he had a history of violence and petty criminal acts. He and Lily had a tumultuous relationship, one that left scars and lingering distrust. The fact that he was in town raised concerns among investigators and the community alike. The footage showed Brody's pickup truck outside the Thompson household around the time of Sarah's murder. He appeared anxious, and his movements hinted at confrontational intent. Hastings immediately brought Brody in for questioning. Initially, he claimed he had come to confront Lily about their past, citing jealousy fueled by lingering feelings for her. However, when questioned about his whereabouts during the critical hours, Brody's story began to unravel. He claimed he had gone to the nearby diner but couldn't produce an alibi or any witnesses to confirm his statement. When pressed further, he seemed to descend into anger, often deflecting blame onto others, particularly Lily. The tension in the room was palpable as Detective Hastings listened to Brody Sloan's defiant words. The erratic behavior and fleeting glances he offered during their interrogation painted a disconcerting picture of someone with something to hide. As she pieced together the mounting evidence against him, his presence near the scene, his volatile history with Lily, and the possibility of a confrontation with Sarah, the case began to solidify around him. After hours of questioning, Hastings finally decided to confront Brody with the new evidence collected. "We have you on camera near the Thompson residence the night Sarah was murdered," she stated firmly, watching his expression shift from cocky bravado to simmering anxiety. "Your history of violence and your relationship with Lily raised serious flags." Brody's eyes darkened as the detective pressed him further, flipping through pages of evidence filled with recordings of him arguing with Lily, conversations laden with threats. "You wanted her back, didn't you?" Hastings accused, driving home the complexities of his emotions. "You didn't like that she was with someone else, neither Michael nor Sarah." Brody's posture shifted. For the first time, he seemed genuinely rattled. "I didn't hurt her," he protested, but with each denial, his voice grew more strained, and Hastings sensed the cracks in his facade. "I just wanted to talk to her. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Detective Hastings then revealed the clinching piece of evidence, a recently acquired DNA analysis from the murder weapon, the wrench. Its results matched Brody's profile. You were at the scene of the crime, Brody. You're not just a witness, you're a suspect, she stated. Realizing the depths of his predicament, Brody's bravado disintegrated. I didn't plan it, he finally admitted, his voice almost breaking. I was angry. I wanted her back, but I swear I never meant to kill her. With that admission, Hastings knew she had enough to move forward. The detective calmly signaled for her officers to take Brody into custody. You're under arrest for the murder of Sarah Collins, she declared, ensuring he understood the gravity of the situation facing him. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. As the officers escorted him out, the weight of his confession loomed large. Brody's arrest sent shockwaves through the community, and the once cohesive narrative of a family torn apart by love and betrayal grew even more complex. Now, with Brody in custody, Hastings felt a sense of closure beginning to take shape, even as it traced back through layers of pain and suffering. The town watched with bated breath, anticipating the next chapter of this heartbreaking tale unraveling before their eyes. Unbeknownst to them, the real truths and motivations of each involved would soon be laid bare as the trial approached, and the impact of Sarah Collins's tragic death began to resurface throughout the community. The trial of Brody Sloan began on a chilly morning in late September, drawing attention from the townsfolk of Willow Creek. The courtroom buzzed with whispers about the shocking murder of Sarah Collins and the tangled web of relationships that led to that fateful night. The media frenzy had portrayed a vivid picture of tragedy and betrayal, making the trial a centerpiece of community intrigue. Detective Laura Hastings sat in the front row, ready to testify and recount her investigation. The prosecution painted a clear picture of a man consumed by jealousy and anger, eager to confront the woman he once loved but had lost to another. As the judge entered the courtroom, the energy shifted, and the audience settled in anticipation of the proceedings. During the trial, the prosecution called witnesses to establish Brody's connection to the crime. Friends of Sarah and Lily testified about the tumultuous nature of Lily's relationship with Brody, highlighting his aggressive tendencies and volatile temperament. The text messages exchanged between Lily and Sarah were presented as evidence of the close bond they shared, which unilaterally portrayed the fierce emotions at play, suggesting Brody's mindset when he learned of their connection. Then came the pivotal moment. The prosecution introduced Detective Hastings to the witness stand. Her composed demeanor signified her resolute commitment to justice. Hastings recounted the timeline of events leading to Sarah's murder, explaining how Brody's threats were well known among friends and the community. She detailed the investigation, focusing on how the evidence not only implicated Brody but painted a vivid portrait of a family driven into chaos by unspoken desires. As the defense presented its case, Brody's attorney attempted to portray him as a mere victim of circumstance, a young man engulfed by emotions he could not manage. They claimed that Brody had no motive to kill Sarah, highlighting his actions as desperate attempts to rekindle a relationship rather than threatening behavior. They suggested that Lily, with her entangled emotions, could be seen as a potential suspect, urging the jury to consider the tumultuous nature of her connection with Sarah. But Hastings also had her chance to counter this narrative. Under cross-examination, she defined the relationship's dynamics and drew strong correlations between Brody's jealousy and the brutal nature of Sarah's murder. The jury listened intently as she emphasized the motive, the desire to possess, driven by past abandonment, leading to a tragic culmination. The testimonies swirled together, revealing a haunting tapestry of grief, desperation, and betrayal. As the trial progressed, it became evident that each character, the grieving husband, the betrayed daughter, and the volatile ex-lover, had their own stories intertwined, bound by love and loss, ultimately leading to one devastating conclusion. The verdict arrived weeks later, and the air within the small, packed courtroom was thick with anticipation. As the jury delivered its decision, the room fell silent, every face reflecting the weight of the case they had followed so closely. Brody Sloan was found guilty of second-degree murder in the death of Sarah Collins. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber as emotions surged. In the wake of the trial, the ramifications of Sarah's murder rippled throughout Willow Creek. The once safety of the tight-knit community had been shattered, with long-lasting consequences lingering in the hearts of those left behind. Friends of both the Collins and Thompsons felt the impact deeply, caught in a tumultuous crossfire that left friendships fractured and trust eroded. Lily Thompson, though not directly charged, was forever altered by the events surrounding her stepmother's death. Struggling with her unresolved emotions and the weight of her relationship with both Brody and Sarah, she entered therapy to help navigate the complex feelings of grief and guilt. The affair she had shared with Sarah became a haunting memory, one that pushed her into a distance from her father, who grapples with his own pain and loss. Michael Thompson, unable to fully confront the death of his wife or comprehend the betrayal that had unfolded in his home, withdrew from the community, seeking solace in isolation. He would often reminisce about Sarah but remained haunted by the realization that he had been oblivious to the inner workings of his family. The bond he shared with Lily suffered as trust diminished, and they both struggled to find a path toward rebuilding their fractured relationship. Detective Laura Hastings continued her work, focusing on the lessons learned from the Collins-Thompson tragedy. She became a voice for prevention, speaking about domestic violence and the hidden nature of emotional relationships that could spiral into something fatal. In the end, Willow Creek would forever bear the scars of Sarah Collins's grisly murder, a tragedy that exposed the complexities of love, betrayal, and the very fragility of human existence. The echoes of that fateful night would remain, casting a long shadow over the lives caught in its grasp.